A question I get asked quite often is, what commanders can I use at a lower skill level? And it doesn't necessarily mean forever use him at the lower skill level, but what commanders could you theoretically invest in and still get value out of if they're not expertise? So today, I'll be making a not expertise commander tier list, putting every single commander in a tier list, looking at can you run them at a skill level such as 5551 and still get value out of them. So if you want to know some commanders who don't even need their expertise at all, or maybe you have a commander and you're tossing up expertising them, you want to stick around till the end of the video. Now, let's quickly start off today by saying I'm going to be looking at one key skill level, and that is 5551. It is pretty much slang of 3 skills max. It doesn't necessarily mean the first 3. It could be the first skill, the third skill, and the fourth skill. It could be the first skill, the second skill, and the fourth skill. It just depends on the commander. Generally, if I know off the top of my head, I'll tell you what their skill level is, but you can usually infer by reading their kit which skill levels are going to be the worst. For rally commanders, you'll notice there are a lot of rally commanders higher on today's list because they don't need their expertise to be good on the open field, since this is an open field tier list. Also, you need to keep in mind before people hammer me in the comments, I'm looking at can the commander be usable at that skill level for their intended purpose. If they're trash on the field and they can still be used at 5551, I'm probably going to put them in just no, because you just shouldn't use them at all. So commanders who you can get some value out of running them at a lower skill level will make it up on today's list. But commanders who are just really bad, like if El Cid's there, like you can't use him at all, he's just instantly going to go into the just no tier. So you'll notice a lot of commanders today will just get skipped and pretty much ignored, but commanders who have some amount of value, even if it's a very small bit, I will still try to rank them at some level. So I'm going to try to rank everyone, but other than that, we'll get into the tier list now. So here is the tier list. Quite simply, we've got 5 tiers, 5551 meta. These commanders are perfectly amazing at 5551. They don't even need their expertise. It's obviously good to give a commander their expertise. They can become stronger, but these commanders up here, they don't need it. They'll still be fine. Can work, but expertise is valuable. These commanders are either so strong that even at 5551, they're still very good, but their expertise is worth the extra 320 gold heads, or they are decent at 5551, but they kind of need the expertise to unlock their full value. Benefits a lot from expertise. I mean, that's self-explanatory. They kind of get value from their expertise. It's the main thing in their kit, and without it, they're not going to perform. Needs the expertise. They absolutely need it. There is no other option than expertising it. And then just nah is, yeah, just don't use them at all. Starting off with Gorgo today, can work, but expertise is valuable. Now, unless I'm remembering wrong, Gorgo's expertise, it's a decent chunk of stats for her kit. It's a decent chunk of damage, and it gives her a good shielding, and it gives her a good debuff. So I think Gorgo, her expertise is very nice, and you should probably get it if you're going to run her. Only problem is one of her skills is redundant. So if you end up getting her expertise, you're pretty much investing in a rally skill that you're a garrison skill that you might have never use if you're not a garrison main. So Gorgo is probably a can work, but expertise is valuable. Her expertise is good in my opinion, but yeah, she can definitely work without it. Same thing with Lil Chair. Lil Chair is definitely 5551 meta, but his expertise is so good that I would say he can work extremely well on the field without an expertise, but his expertise is 100% worth the gold heads. That extra attack that you do get out of him is 100% worth the extra 300 and something gold heads. I think it's like 370. So in my opinion, he can work very well. He can be 5551 meta, but his expertise is extremely good. Ethelfled needs the expertise. It's completely free. I don't see why you wouldn't. Nevsky, I'm going to put again into can work, but expertise is valuable. He's another example of a good commander without the expertise, but an amazing commander with the expertise. If you want to run Nevsky, I would expertise him. There wouldn't be a reason to leave him at a kind of lower skill level. You can get away with it, but in my opinion, you are better off just going for that expertise and fully committing to him because he's probably going to be decent. Keep in mind, maybe not the best investment right now. We're probably going to see some new calves. There was a new combo cav released, or at least teased. So we'll kind of see what happens with cavalry. For now, though, I think Nevsky can work. Expertise is definitely valuable, though, on him, and you probably want to have it if you're going to run him for a long period of time. Alex benefits a lot from expertise. He's an older commander. If he was newer, 5551 meta, sure, but due to his age, you kind of need to get him at a good skill level for him to be worth running. Also, keep in mind, if you're early game right now, you might as well put gold heads into Alex because we're going to get a commander reset at some point, and there's a good chance you can just swap him for another commander. So someone like Alex, he benefits a lot from the expertise. I would recommend getting it for him, especially if you're looking to run him with a Lil Chair, only because he's an older commander, to be honest. Chandragupta, he needs the expertise. He's too old. Attila, too old again. He definitely needs the expertise. Xiao Xiao just now. Chia Yung just now. Martel, I've heard that he works okay without an expertise. In the early game, he's really good, no expertise. Late game, he's not that amazing. So I think that when it comes down to Charles Martel, I would say that he benefits a lot from the expertise just due to his old age, but you can actually somewhat get away with him if you don't have his expertise. Though I would say he does benefit a lot from it just because he is such an old commander, and if you want to run him, even though he's not going to be the most amazing, you want to have some level at least super close to the expertise. These two commanders are completely useless. Gilgamesh, you want to get the expertise on him. You can still use him nowadays in the field as like a debuffing commander if you're swarming down a garrison or a rally. He's good for anti-heal, but again, he's a very old commander, so if you don't have his expertise, you pretty much can't run him at all. Unlike the commanders in the tier above him, Gilgamesh needs the expertise or is not even usable. You'll just get abysmal trades. CY is a garrison. Edward, he needs the expertise if you're going to run him on the open field. He's not good at all on the field, but if you do want to run him, he needs the expertise. If you want to use him in a rally, he definitely needs the expertise. El Cid's trash. Frederick's trash. Hannibal Barker is trash. Honda, I would say, he can work without the expertise, but it is another thing where it is kind of valuable for you. He's going to be very similar to Mehmed, who's going to be in pretty much the same tier, so I might as well go grab him. Mehmed and Honda, they're both commanders who are very good secondaries to a ton of different commanders. I mean, you can run them as a secondary to pretty much anyone, and they don't necessarily need their expertise. Mehmed is a really good example of this. If you're new to Season of Conquest or Season 3 and you can afford a museum relic, Mehmed, instantly just get him in there. 5511 Mehmed is a great commander to run with someone while you're working on another commander. 5515, I think it is for Mehmed. Read his skills, whichever one his Garrett rally skill is, don't invest in that one. Those skill levels are perfectly fine on Mehmed as well. So just getting Mehmed either 3 skill levels up or 2 skill levels up, it's going to make him a really powerful commander. He's going to work. For Honda, just doing 5551 is perfectly fine with him. His first 3 skills are really, really good. His 4th skill is good. His expertise is worth it. So in my opinion, his expertise is valuable. Same thing with Mehmed just because of his old age. But Honda, definitely a runnable commander without fully expertising him. So in my opinion, Honda, good example of a commander, and Mehmed as well, who don't fully need their expertise. Bertrand, he needs the expertise. Guan Yu, I've seen him run without the expertise nowadays. It's not that amazing, so I'd say he benefits a lot from it. You kind of just need to expertise him, or you're going to get a pretty mid trade. CPO, on the other hand, first 5551 meta, he's amazing without his expertise. CPO's expertise is next to useless because there are not many silencing commanders nowadays. Unless you're running CPO with Guan, you're going to get almost no value from CPO's expertise. You get like a small skill damage bonus, but it's just not worth the gold heads. And I think, to my knowledge, CPO's 3rd skill is his weakest. Now, it's not a very weak skill in general. It's just the weakest of the 4 other skills he has. So in my opinion, you can definitely get away with a CPO at like 5551 or 5515. Either of those skill levels is fine for him. So I think CPO, he's very, very good without the expertise. You can certainly justify saving gold heads on him. And because he's getting a little bit older, I would say if you want to invest in him now, it's probably best just to leave him at that slightly lower skill level. Now, keep in mind, he's obviously going to do worse than an expertise CPO because CPO has 4 really good skills, and if you do get all 4, they're probably worth it, but you can certainly get away with running him at a slightly lower skill level, especially if you have him with a decently leveled or even an expertise Ragnar, who can pretty much carry the March pairing. Constantine, if you want to run him as a buffing support March, you need the expertise. If you want him in a garrison, you also need the expertise. Nebu benefits a lot from the expertise. Nebu is a very old commander nowadays, similar to all the commanders in this tier, and while he's still runnable, he isn't meta by a lot. There's a massive margin between Nebu and the meta, and if you want to run him, you definitely want to expertise him. Now, you can get away with a Nebu at a lower skill level. It just is not going to be the nicest thing ever, and if you get hit, it's going to be absolutely abysmal, and your single target damage is going to be horrible, and you'd rather just invest in Ashravani Pal at that point. So Nebu, I would say, definitely a commander you should be expertising if you're going to be running him. Joan Prime, she is a 5551 meta. A lot of people, if you can get a Joan at 5115, she's perfectly fine at that skill level. Her other skills are kind of minuscule. They're not too amazing. Now, she's got good stats in those skills. It's not bad. It's just you get the 1st skill and the 4th skill, and you're perfectly good with her. Generally, when someone asks me if they should invest in Joan, and especially if they're trying to save gold heads, I would say to them, invest as many gold heads as you can into her, max out the 1st skill, and then keep upgrading her skills until you max out that 4th skill. You can use skill resets, whatever it is, but once that 4th skill is maxed, even if you get like a 5-3-2-5 Joan, even just a weird Joan like that, you can get away with her. She's going to be fine at that skill level. I don't know about future potential of her at a lower skill level, but I feel that most of her value is in those the first skill and the fourth skill, as she's going to get all of her damage out of it, and she's mainly just a secondary for the damage. So Joan, first skill, fourth skill, can be a perfectly meta commander, doesn't really need much more than that. You can justify expertising her, it's not a bad investment at all. It's more of a, you can get away with not expertising her, especially if you're newer to Season of Conquest. So NEBU is bad, Yanziska, if you want to run him, you need the expertise. Jadwiga is bad. Bellarius, I would say he needs the expertise. If you want to run a Bellarius Prime, 99% of his value is in the expertise skill. Everything else is just like added fluff and stats that he gets. While they are good, there's a lot of stronger cavalry commanders out there over Bellarius. Like, for example, if I did a 5-5-5-1 Bellarius versus a 5-5-5-1 Nevsky, Belly's going to get wrecked. If you did a value comparison, Belly's going to get demolished. The only real good thing in Bellarius' kit, I would say that the majority of Bellarius' value is in that debuff in his expertise because it is so strong, and without it is pretty much useless. Bellarius, he's a team type of player. If you don't have his expertise, he is not going to be too strong. Julian Caesar, he benefits a lot from the expertise. You can get away with him at a lower skill level, but the extended duration and the stronger buff that the expertise gives him is worth it. So in my opinion, if you're going to run Caesar with a commander like Hao Bing or Zang or a very fast rage cycle commander, which is who he's best with, you definitely want to move towards the expertise. Now, he's not a very meta commander nowadays, but you can get away with him if you have the right commander pairing, and if you have him expertise, he can certainly work at a decent level. NEBU is rubbish. Mulan needs the expertise if you want to run her nowadays. Her buffs are getting very outdated, especially with Philip II being added to the game. So in my opinion, Mulan, definitely a commander, needs the expertise. Khan, if you want to run him, needs the expertise. Harold, he needs the expertise. It's where he gets his double active skills, so without it, he's not very amazing. Ragnar would need the expertise. Flavius needs the expertise. That's a second legal chair. Boudica 5-5-5-1 meta. You can get away with Boudica without her expertise because her fourth skill and her expertise are useless. To just be realistic like that, they're not very strong. I mean, you can get away with it if you want to run her at just 5-5-5-1. It's a fine march. In my opinion, it can work perfectly. There's not many silencing commanders out nowadays, so in my opinion, her expertise is not getting much value. Same thing with Henry. Get away with not expertising him now. I ran him at 5-5-1-5 for a very, very long time, and he was a strong and solid commander. So in my opinion, you can get away without expertising Henry, and he's going to be a decent commander. Now, again, both of these commanders are not the most meta nowadays, so don't expect crazy trades out of them. But if you have him at these lower skill levels, you can get away with running them still, even in the current meta. Scipio Melianus, he benefits a lot from the expertise, if I'm not forgetting, and I feel that he's kind of a weaker commander. So if you want to run him, especially with a smite commander, you're going to need the expertise. Tarek, he's going to work, but you probably want to get the expertise. The expertise is pretty good for his active skill. It gives him some good damage, and it gives Tarek a pretty good chunk of anti-swarm. So in my opinion, the expertise is not necessary, but it is valuable enough for me to put him into this tier. Now, I can work without it for sure, just I think it's worth you going and getting it. But Carl, if you want to run him, he needs the expertise. Same thing if you wanted to run a Heraclius on the field, which I don't know why you would, but if you wanted to, you could get away with it. Zulang, he's probably a can work, but expertise is valuable. Very similar to Liu Che, he's such a strong commander that even if you don't have him expertise, he'll trade well. It's just more of a fact that you can definitely get away with a much stronger Liu Che if you do expertise him, and you can get away with a lot more. His damage is much, much higher with the extra marquee effect. You get an instant cycle, you pretty much just drop in an extra 1,500 damage, 3 target AoE, and it's overpowered. So I think Liu Che's expertise, Zulang's expertise is worth the investment, and if you don't have him expertise, he can still work. So very similar to Liu Che, you can run him fine. I just recommend getting the expertise because it is worth your gold heads. Justinian, he pretty much needs the expertise. Leonidas, I wouldn't run. Hao Bing, he is probably a 5-5-5-1 meta. I want to put him up there just because Hao Bing is very good without the expertise and he's very good with the expertise. You can get away with him in both situations. If I'm not remembering incorrectly, his expertise isn't the most insane thing. While it is good stats, it's not 100% necessary. So if you wanted to work on a Hao Bing and then expertise him later and still run him on the open field while you're working on him, he's very good to do that. Now again, similar to most of the commanders in Rise of Kingdoms, his expertise is going to end up being worth it because his fourth skill and his third skill and his second and his main skill are all really strong. It's more just a matter of that you can run him without expertising him, but I'd recommend still going and getting it. But he's definitely a 5-5-5-1 meta commander because you can run him really well and he's still going to work. Unlike Nevsky, I feel that Nevsky kind of benefits a lot more from his expertise, and even though Nevsky can work extremely well, he's probably not going to get as much value as Hao Bing will without his expertise. Hao Bing gets a bit more value without the expertise, but when you add Nevsky's expertise, and because of how good all of Nevsky's skills are, I think Nevsky benefits from the expertise a little bit more than Hao Bing does. Hao Bing's expertise is pretty average. Nevsky's, from my memory, is pretty damn strong. Thutmose, you have to expertise him if you want to run him. Sagon, I would say you probably have to expertise him because he's so weak. Artemisia, she benefits a lot from the expertise. I've seen people get away without running her expertise, but because of how old she is, I'm actually going to put her in needs the expertise because of her age. Without her getting it, I think it's almost impossible to run her because she would just be way too squishy and way too weak. Cyrus, he needs the expertise. Eleanor's going to need the expertise. William can definitely work without an expertise, but you're losing a lot of his supporting value if you don't get his expertise, especially the massive being able to remove slow effects and be able to give yourself and your allies a shield. You lose that without William's expertise. So I think without his expertise, he's not the most amazing, but he's definitely usable without it. He's definitely strong without the expertise. It's just definitely worth you doing those extra gold heads as an investment. So in my opinion, William, worth it getting his expertise, and he can definitely work without it. He just gets a lot of value from the expertise. Siege commanders, I'll be fully honest, I don't know them. So I'm going to say from general experience, they do benefit from their expertise. I could certainly see it being reasonable that they work without their expertise, but that's just something I can't fully comment on. So these are just a placement right now. If Mr. Siege is watching the video, my favorite YouTuber, I love to glaze him. If he's watching, he'll probably tell me if some of these commanders need or don't need their expertise, because I don't know which ones are needing and which ones are not. So I think, to my knowledge, most Siege commanders benefit from their expertise. I don't remember any having like a weak 4th or weak 3rd skill or a weak expertise. They're all generally strong. But in my opinion, I don't have a proper opinion on them because I don't fully know enough about them. If I did, I would put them in a rank. But in my opinion, I think that they're probably going to sit around here if I were just to give a guess. Now, this is a guess. I don't fully remember their kits. I'm not as updated with the Siege commanders, so I'll leave them be for now. Shajar, she's 5551 meta. She's much better than both of the other archer commanders, and I'm thinking I'm going to knock down Henry to Ken work, but expertise is valuable, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, Shajar is definitely worth not expertising. Her 4th skill, I'm pretty sure, and her expertise are mainly about healing, and right now, because we don't have a healing meta, she's fine without it. So don't expertise her. You don't need her to be expertise unless you're running her with Philip, because she is going to be a strong commander without it. Minamoto, I'd expertise him because you have to spend money on him anyways. Ditto, you need the expertise. Ragnar, to my knowledge, he can work, but his expertise is worth it. It gives him a lot of active skill damage, and in my opinion, it's stronger. By the way, I think Henry's expertise is worth it because it gives him a ton of normal damage reduction or normal damage bonuses, which are very nice. Ramsey's just nah. Richard just nah. Saladin probably needs the expertise if you're going to run him. Pyrrhus, same story. Herman, 5551 meta, in my opinion. You can get away with not expertising Herman because his double active skill doesn't trigger that much. From personal experience, unless you can rage chain amazingly, it's almost impossible to get his active skill to trigger unless you're doing a long battle, which is quite rare. And on top of this, I'm pretty sure it's Herman's 4th skill. You get the majority of his value from it just being level 1, since the rest is like a small stat bonus. So in my opinion, Herman is worth getting just at 5551 and is going to work. Ashurbanipal, he can work, but his expertise is really good. It gives him a ton of stats on his active skill, and in my opinion, it is worth it. Chia Young, if you're going to run him, he needs expertise. Philip, he can work, but again, expertise is valuable. It gives him, I'm pretty sure it's an active skill boost. It's a good active skill boost, if I'm not mistaken, and it's most likely worth going and putting those gold heads in. But I could see Philip working without the expertise. It's just that expertise does give him a little bit of a bonus. Philipson needs the expertise. His expertise is so damn good that if you don't have it, he's losing so much value, it's not funny. Now, you can probably run him without the expertise and it'll probably still be okay, but he needs the expertise so bad it's not funny. He can get his own double active skill. He can give his secondary commanders double active skills. It's just so powerful that he needs it. And in my opinion, it's a meta level expertise worth every single gold head right now. So meta, I would say he needs the expertise. Philip probably is going to require it, if anything. Amanatore, if you want to run her, needs it. Sundok is bad. Takeda needs the expertise. Theodore is bad. Tomiris is bad. Trajan, he'll need the expertise if you want to run him. William, he'll need the expertise because he's very old. Wuzetian is bad. Zhang Yu probably needs expertise because of his age. And YSG needs the expertise. Now, that is the full tier list. There's no ranking these commanders in order because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really down to preference, and I'm not ranking them on their open field strength. It's more, can they work without their expertise? How important is the expertise to them? It's not how strong are they on the open field. So this is the final tier list, ranking every commander on can you use them at a lower skill level, not if they're meta. We're not looking at how meta a commander is. It's more, do they need expertise or can they work without their expertise skill? So now that we've made it to the end of today's video, I just want to ask you guys for a very small favor, and that is, please do consider subscribing. If you found today's video interesting, even though it is probably going to be a little bit longer than normal, it would be very helpful if you guys do subscribe, because subscribing helps support the channel. So if you want to subscribe, it's super easy to do. Just hit that button. You can always unsubscribe if you end up not liking my content, and I do really appreciate it. Other than that, I just want to say thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.